Hi everyone, and welcome to Follow Your Arrow. This is Sammy, and this will be my first interview, so it's very exciting. And today I'm talking to Katy Hurt, who I met at CTC back in March this year. And welcome, Katy.
Hello,
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. We just had a few technical issues starting, but it's great that we're finally getting to meet up and have a chat about things.
Yeah, I'm really
Um,
excited to talk to you.
Oh, great. No, I'm so pleased to be able to talk to you. And yeah, it was great meeting you back at CTC in March. And luckily got introduced by Chris Stevens of Chris Countries. That was great. And then I went to see one of Katie's shows and it was, yeah, amazing. So it's really great
Aw,
to find out more about you and, yeah, sort of tell us a bit more about your background information and yeah, just find out what's next really. So, yeah, welcome.
hello. Um,
Great. So I see that you grew up in the States as well as over here.
yes,
And was that how your interest in country music began?
pretty much. Yeah. I mean, I um, I didn't sleep very well as a child, and my parents tried everything to get me to kind of settle down and go to sleep. And eventually, my dad found out that if he played Patsy Cline and Jim Reeves records, I was so focused on them, I would like drift off. Um, and I kind of just from the age of 4 was just obsessed with those songs, and so my parents would play them all the time. And then obviously being in the States, we had country radio, so then they were clearly like, oh, she stopped screaming as a baby when we put country music on, so we'll just do that, and it kind of just took over.
Oh my
Um,
goodness, that's amazing. What a brilliant, yeah, way to sort of get into it, I guess. Yeah, I think my mum played with the EastEnders theme tune to get me to sleep, so less exciting.
what kids listen to. Like I've no understanding why that was the case, but obviously my dad really liked Jim Reeves, and then one day it just kind of happened that he realised that I really liked it too, and yeah, so clearly it was in my blood.
Yeah, definitely. And where in America did you live and what was life like growing up
Uh,
there?
I grew up in Long Island, New York, so it was kind of a beach town. I lived in a little tiny village called Northport. I don't remember that much because I was really young. We left when I was about 7, but the memories I do have of it are all really great. Like, I know, I went to kindergarten there and I have a lot of memories of hanging out with my friends in school, like, kind of those young memories. And I know that there was an awesome ice cream parlor and a place called the Crab Shack that served the best blueberry pancakes. And yeah, I guess I think of that as being my first home, so I have a lot of really good feelings about it. And we have family all the way up and down the States, all the way up and down the East and West Coast. So we did a lot of traveling as well. I remember driving down to North Carolina and getting to spend the summer with some friends there. And so I think I just kind of developed this really strong love of the States and this love of the music that they create. So yeah, that's
Oh,
kind
that sounds wonderful. Yeah, what great memories that you have
of,
there.
yeah.
Oh,
Um,
great.
and I love it here as well. So I'm very, very lucky.
Yeah, and you've got that family, those families you can go and visit and yeah, work out there now as well. So yeah, lots of great connection and chance to go out there, which is great.
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, we were out there because of my dad's job, and obviously came back because of my dad's job. So it was just kind of like I'm really fortunate that his job gave us that opportunity as a family to be able to do that.
Yeah,
We see kind of both sides of the Atlantic, uh,
definitely.
which is really cool.
Great. So can we tell us a bit more about your time at the ACM Songwriting and Artist Development Program
Yes.
and where that was based and how long did it last for and what was the whole experience like for you there?
Well, first of all, it was an incredible experience. I am so grateful to everything ACM taught me, and for the opportunity that it gave me. It was based in Metropolis Recording Studios in London. I did like an offshoot course, so it was a 6-month course that gave you a higher diploma. And the reason I did that was because initially, I had finished my A levels and I was trying to decide what to do with regards to university because I really wanted to go to university, but I knew that I needed to follow this music and I needed to see what was going to happen. So I had a lot of kind of debates with my parents about whether or not I needed to go to university, and that kind of whole, I want a gap year to see what happens thing happened. And then my dad was like, well, you really should focus on your education. Like, you've got good enough grades to go to university. You should go to university. And I kind of just didn't know where I wanted to go. I couldn't see myself going and living in any of the places that the universities were for 3 years, and I didn't know what to do about it. So I, out of spite, was like, well, I'm going to go look at music universities then. Fine, if that's the way you want to be. And I went and had a look around ACM, and I was really fortunate because bad timing kind of led to good endings. But I turned up too late for the tour, and there just happened to be one other staff member there, and he was like, oh, I'll give you guys a tour. And I was with my mom, and he showed us around, and I was telling him about my music the whole time, and we were just chatting about life in the industry and all that kind of stuff. And eventually the tour ended, and he was like, well, do you guys have any music? And I gave him a copy of my CD, and didn't think anything of it. I didn't really know what it was that he did, but I went home, and about 2 or 3 hours later I got a phone call that said, hi Katy, we've listened to your CD and we've decided to offer you a place.
Oh, wow.
I hadn't even applied yet. Like, they just, obviously, I didn't know that the guy I was talking to was actually the head of the course. And it just ended up being a really good opportunity, and they kind of took me in. So they said to me that I could pick any course that I wanted. And I could literally, they were like, choose anything. What is it that you want to study here? And so, being that I wasn't sure what was going to happen with university, I decided to pick the 6-month course, because I figured it would mean I could have a gap year to focus on music, do the course, get an extra qualification, and then go to university. So I did that, and then when my course ended, I immediately signed a publishing deal, and then went on to become an independent artist, released my singles a week after finishing, and it went #1. So yeah, I then kind of made the decision that I was gonna stick it out and do this instead of going back to education. But I would highly recommend going to ACM to anyone.
Oh, wow, that is an amazing story, and a real sort of way to sort of show your talent, really, and basically they saw that very early on, clearly, and it's leading to great things. So wow, it sounds like an amazing experience. Cool. And how did you get into songwriting? Is there sort of anything that you did particularly, or how did that come about?
Well, as a kid, I was always a very heavy reader. I love stories, phrases. Me and my parents and my dad especially, because he loves it too. We always just do, crosswords and all that kind of stuff. And I remember, I don't know when I actually started writing songs, but I do know that I was clearing out my room a couple weeks back, and I found a songbook that said, Katy Hurt, age 9, do not open. Like, scroll across the front, like, no parents allowed kind of thing. And then it was just a terrible songbook. But I had obviously started trying to write songs and stories. So I started around 9, I think. And it was just, I didn't play any instruments. This is the interesting thing. So up until I was about 13, 14, I didn't play any instruments. I just sang. So I released my first single when I was 14, and the way that I did that was I went into a studio with a producer and I sung him the song, like a cappella, and I was like, here's the melody and here's the lyrics. Now can you help me make the music? So I spent 3 days with him actually creating the song, and that was a really interesting experience for me because I had never done anything. I had never actually made the music before for songs. So then I kind of fell into that world. But that's kind of how I got into it. I think I just wanted to kind of tell stories, and the one thing that country music does better than anything, any other genre, that I just can't find anyone that does it better than country, but it's the actual, the lyrics, it's the story behind them. There is a consistency in country music where people tell their truths and talk about happiness and heartbreak and all that kind of stuff, and I think that's what draws me to the genre more than anything. So that's kind of why I was a singer, and I felt like if I was going to sing something, I had to have something to say. So that's kind of how I fell into songwriting. And then it's actually just as if not more important than anything else now, because it's as much a part of me as the singing is.
Yeah, and that's the reason, you love country is the exact reason why I love country and love listening to the stories that are in them, and because it's so raw and so real, and I think we all can relate to it,
Yeah.
for sure. And do you have any tips for anyone trying to get into songwriting?
I think don't be afraid to take chances and to just say what you feel. Like, I think as a songwriter, I sit down sometimes and I'll write out what I'm feeling, and I'm like, no, it's too cliched, I can't do that. I think if it's what you really mean, then you should just say it. And I think obviously then after a while you can learn how to play with the words and with the phrasing to make it better. But I think basically the best thing to do with songwriting is just to keep doing it. Just keep writing out thoughts and keep putting pen to paper and stuff. That's what I've done. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Great.
Show it to people as well. Like, I think as musicians and as creatives and stuff, we kind of get afraid that people are going to judge us for our music. And I think if you have a song that you've written, because obviously you wouldn't sit down and write a song unless you had a reason to. So I think if you're going to do that, you should show it to someone and you should get their advice and their thoughts on it and see what they think.
That's a brilliant idea. Yeah, definitely. I guess it's putting yourself out there, isn't it? And being brave enough to stand behind it. Yeah.
So just have the confidence to do that. And it's scary as well. Like, I remember being afraid to show people my songs, and I still am to this day. Even if I write a new song and I want to show my parents, like, I'm still like, okay guys, don't judge it, it's still early, like I might change things. And I kind of freak out when they're listening. I'm like, oh yeah, that bit's not finished yet, but it's still like just finding a way to show people what you feel. So yeah.
Oh, okay. And you write and produce music with your guitarist Gab.
Yes.
Japka, is that right? I'm sorry if I pronounced his name. How did that collaboration come about? And what is it about collaborating with Gab that makes it work?
That collaboration came about, we met at the Troubadour in London. I was opening for an artist and Gab was playing guitar for her, and actually kind of started because of the drummer, Steve, who had just come along to watch, and he tapped me on the shoulder after I was doing the opening 20 minutes, and then he tapped me on the shoulder afterwards and he was like, hi, I'm your new drummer. And I was just like, okay, cool. I didn't have a band, so I was just like, yeah, great. When do we start? What do we do now? And he was like, oh, let me introduce you to these guys. And he introduced me to Gab, and it's really funny. There's a phrase that's thrown around in the music industry, and it's so common that Whiskey Jam, I don't know if you've heard of Whiskey Jam in Nashville.
Yeah.
They actually printed t-shirts with it on, and it's, hey, you want to write sometime? Or we should write, which everybody says, and you always really want to. I think that's why people say it, because we always really want to collaborate with other artists, and then you forget and life gets busy and it doesn't usually happen. But Gab turned around to me that night and he was like, I really loved your songs, we should write sometime. I'm kind of new to this, to country, and I'd love to write with you. And he was pretty persistent, because he immediately was like, when are you free? And I got my calendar up and I found a day, and we were like, okay, it's booked. And a week later we wrote 4 songs in an afternoon, and we were both kind of like, what just happened? How did that happen? We didn't mean to do that. And then, we just I needed a guitarist and Gab was free when I had some shows. So it just kind of happened, and it was really cool because, obviously I play guitar now, but I call myself a baby guitarist because my guitar knowledge is strumming some chords and occasionally trying to mimic something cooler, but that's about it, and I'm still learning. But Gab will sit down to write and he'll just start playing riffs all the time. He's very creative, and he'll just start coming up with these things. And the reason that writing with him works so well is because even when we don't mean to, like if we're backstage at a show or something, he'll play something and I'll immediately be like, oh, that's pretty, what is that? And then we'll just come up with a couple of lines and we'll record them, and then like the next day or whenever we next have a writing session, we'll listen back to all the recordings that we've got and we'll just pick one and start working on it. And then ultimately we'll get distracted and end up writing a whole nother song as well. So, it's a very interesting collaboration, and Gab's really good with phrasing as well. Like I'll throw out words and then he'll immediately be like, what if you twisted it and did this? And that's really cool to have someone who kind of edits you as you go along. So yeah, that's kind of how that happened. And it just kind of worked. We clearly clicked.
Yeah.
Cause obviously he sings, but he's not a singer. So it was cool because I think from his perspective, he had someone who was working on these songs with him who could then perform them. And kind of, for me, it was being able to find someone who could understand what I was hearing in my head to go behind the songs and help me start them in the first place. And then kind of being able to go all the way through to playing them live. And that's really cool.
It sounds like it's working well. I've seen you play together and, it was amazing. It was such a good show and that was just a small little gig, he knows where things are going to go. It's really exciting. And who would you say are your country music influences?
That's a great question and my answer changes all the time, but my go-to is Patsy Cline.
Yeah.
She was like the first for me. So
yeah.
I can single-handedly say the reason I fell in love with country music is because of Patsy Cline's voice. So, yeah, she's my main influence. And then, more recently, I've actually been really inspired by artists who aren't even country, but they're artists who are writing songs that I think tell stories the same way. So people like John Mayer, who's just an incredible songwriter. He's been a huge influence lately, and obviously bands like Rascal Flatts and people like Carrie Underwood always have a place in my heart. So yeah, it kind of changes. And the band listen to a lot of rock music.
Okay.
What's been really interesting lately is that we'll be in the car and I never get to pick what's on the radio. Like, it doesn't matter where we're going or how long we're in the car, I never get to choose. Because they're like, no, you're a girl. We'll pick good music. So
what do they know?
Like Top or I don't know, like Foreigner or Journey or like some cheesy 80s band and Bon Jovi and people who've had really good, like really successful songs. And I think that's been real interesting for me. And listening to bands like the Eagles and seeing how they're actually pretty country and that's been really cool for me to learn because I didn't, up until I met the band, my kind of journey in music had been pretty solitary. I mean, I was doing it kind of myself. I mean, my mom was helping me in terms of managing and going to all the gigs with me, but in terms of people my own kind of age and friends, I didn't really talk about music to anyone else. So having a band around me who I could like learn from and who knew other songs I didn't know and who could introduce me to stuff was really something I think I needed. So it's been pretty fun. But yeah, my main influences would be the classics, people like Patsy Cline and Johnny Cash. In fact, I even have a very cheesy photo of me and Johnny Cash, which was taken on a green screen at the Johnny Cash Museum. Above my bed. So I'm a total dork when it comes to country music.
I love that. That's amazing. That's brilliant. And is there like a particular songwriter that you would love to work with? Sort of now that's out and about at the moment?
There are quite a few. I have a list of songwriters I would love to work with. I think, interestingly, the girls in Nashville have really kind of come into their own in the last couple of years.
Yes, they have, yeah.
And I would love to work with people like Brandy Clark and Ashley McBride and, artists like Miranda Lambert as well. Like, these women with these great stories to tell. They would definitely be the top of my list at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. They're my favourites. Yeah. And all the favourites. So my favourite song of yours so far, because I'm going to say so far because it is changing at the moment all the time. And because it really resonates with me, is Small Town, as it reminds me of the town I grew up in. And do you live in that same town? And what's the response been for you coming out as an artist?
Yes, I do live in the small town that I sing about, and it's been pretty funny. So I live in a town called Windlesham, which not many people have heard of. It's very small. I work in the local gift shop one day a week. I have done since I was 16. I love it. I just wrap presents for people all day. But yeah, it's been really funny because I get people coming in all the time and they're asking me about how the music's going and what I've been up to lately, and I get to kind of learn what they've been up to and learn what's going on. So there's kind of that really cool traditional small town mentality about it.
Yeah.
But that song was so funny because you hit, like, pretty much every country song is about, like, a small town in the States and the things that went on, you know, like, there's always these really great stories about, you know, like, hanging out by the lake, or, I mean, Jason Aldean has one called Tattoos on This Town, and it's, you know, they spray paint their names under the bridge and stuff, and there's all these really fun stories, and I just thought nothing, like, fun ever happens in Windlesham. Like, it's really quiet town, and we have a park, but that's it. So I was really frustrated one day, and we were actually on the way to open for Sarah Beth, in, where was it? Somewhere like Exeter. I don't know, we were just about to leave for like a 3-hour car journey, and I was sat in the garden with, Gab, and we had just finished loading the car, and I was like, it's so annoying, why don't we live in like small town America where we could write these cool songs from the perspective of. He was like, but you do live in a small town. I was like, no, my small town's not the right kind of small town. And then we just kind of were like, wait, that would be a really funny song idea.
Yeah.
So we actually just sat there and wrote it, and that's why it's so short, because we literally just like finished it immediately. We just like didn't have much to say other than what it says, which is just so funny. And that song gets such a great reaction at gigs, and I just did not expect it, because it's so traditional, and like, I think it's so cheesy, but I love it.
I love it. I do. It just reminds me of, where I grew up, and
but it's really
a siren going past is like the biggest thing that is happening.
That's not even actually ever happened here.
Oh, wow.
That was so funny for me, because when we were trying to write, and it was just like, well, literally, like, I don't know anything, but like, we don't have a police station, we don't have post office, we don't, you know, all of those things are in the next kind of village over. So that's where that one came from, and I'm really glad people like it, because that song is requested more than any other song.
Really? Oh.
Which is so funny, because it's like the one that we took the least seriously, but I guess that's just the way music works sometimes.
I think it's brilliant. And your latest single, See You Later, I absolutely love it, because it's so sassy and catchy, and I sing my head off along on the car to work.
Really excited to hear
and but it's also modern. And what inspired you to write this song?
So, the boys in the band also do some cover band stuff for fun, and they do an 80s rock band. And I love going and watching them play that, because it's absolutely hilarious. They dress up in spandex, and they play like shred guitar stuff, and it's just so much fun. So I went one night to watch them play, like, Living on a Prayer and all that kind of stuff. And I was stood outside, and again, it's just having conversations with Gab. There was a street sign across the road, and I think it was called Abyssinia Lane, or Abyssinia Close or something. And we are such dorks, and we just started being like, lol, Abyssinia Close, and like messing around with the street name, and then realized that I'll Be Seeing Ya would be a really good song title. Or we thought so. And so then we were like, oh, we should write that. And we kind of wrote it down. We have like a list of titles and stuff. So we wrote it down, and then came back to it one day in a writing session, and we tried to write like a heartbreak song, because we thought it would be like, oh, I'll be seeing you, like, I don't know, some kind of romantic ballad type thing. We couldn't quite figure out what to say, and it was really tough, actually. It's one of the first times we've really like struggled. We've been like, this is a cool like idea, but what are we, like, where are we going with this? So we kind of forgot about it, and then I was hanging out with a friend. I went out with her for her birthday or something, and we went to a club, and this guy came up. He was dancing with everyone. Like, we had watched him dance with like all the different girls and try to get in with all the different groups of girls. And eventually he came over to us, and my friend Leah, she is just a firecracker, and she just immediately put her hand up in front of his face like something out of a movie and went, no, move on. I just remember thinking it was like the sassiest thing I'd ever seen. So yeah, so when I went back to the writing session with Gab, I was like, what if it's like see you later? Or what if it's like telling a guy to get lost because you don't even want to start talking to him? And that's kind of, we then were like, wait, that's a much better idea than writing a like heartbreak song. So we just wrote that instead. And it still took us a while for some reason, but eventually we kind of really loved it. But it was so funny because we were still writing the lyrics for it when we were in the studio in Canada. Like,
Oh, wow.
I don't know why. It's just one of those songs, but I loved the message and I love the way it kind of makes me feel when we're on stage, because I get to kind of play this kind of sassy character, and I'm not like that in real life, so it was really fun for me.
I find it very empowering, personally.
Yeah.
So,
I was kind of like, I want to be this girl who says, "See you later, pal," and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we decided it was something that we thought was really empowering and really fun, so we wanted it to be on the EP. And I loved it so much, I was like, this is going to be the first single.
Brilliant.
Which was really cool.
Oh, good. And Follow Your Arrow is dedicated to supporting women in country, and how, I want to know sort of your angle on it, really, as a sort of, emerging artist in the UK and also working in the US as well. And just, have you noticed a difference in different receptions, and how do you feel it's been?
It's such a hot topic. It's really interesting. I think at the cornerstone of country music, there have always been great female artists who have worked their whole lives to tell these stories and these songs. And I think it's amazing because country music is somehow still an all boys club. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think it's just a time thing. I think it's just the way it was. And it's much like with everything in life, it's changing and it's growing. So I think, country radio in the States is definitely going through a period of kind of reform where the girls are kind of being like, enough is enough. We need to be heard. And Cam posted a really interesting photo on her Instagram a while back where she put up the CMA Fest poster with all of the names of the boys playing, or with all of the names of all of the artists playing, and then she took away all the names of the boys, and it just had 4 female names, and 2 of them were the same. And she was like, how is this possible? And it's really weird, because if you ask anyone here, most of the artists they'll name are girls.
Yeah.
Like, most of the country artists in the UK are girls. Like, there's such a strong female kind of thing happening. And it's really interesting that for some reason the girls are still kind of being treated like second class. And I personally haven't really had that problem. I haven't faced that yet. But yeah, it's bizarre, because I was talking to the guys in the band about it, and they're like, why do all these female country artists keep complaining? Like, everybody here is a girl. Like, there's barely any guys on the scene. And I thought that was really interesting, because over here, it's obviously lots of girls, like, artists like Laura Oakes and Kath McGrath and Ward Thomas and stuff. It's all women.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting to see from the UK perspective, there are way more girls than guys. And we're kind of building this kind of industry around the way we want to do things, which I think is really exciting. But over in the States, I think that there are a lot of men who sing country songs, and that's great, because I love those songs. I will forever, think that Tim McGraw and Keith Urban and Johnny Cash and all those people are the best. But I think that there are some times where the boys get things a little bit easier, especially on country radio.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's an interesting one. I haven't ever faced anything where it's been really obvious to me that it's been like we're not playing you because you're a girl. But I totally appreciate the women that have paved the way for that to be the case. Like, I'm really proud of the Song Suffragettes over in Nashville, who put on like a monthly female writers round. And they've been really working hard to get female writers into the foreground. So watching that's been really exciting for me. But yeah, I don't really know, because it's an interesting one.
And I believe the legislation that they were doing with the Senate in America, I mean, that's all, the songwriters have won now, which is amazing. I think that came out either today or yesterday. So,
and I'm thrilled about it.
Yes.
So that was definitely a win for the artists and the creators and the writers, as opposed to the big industry. It's interesting because, especially lately, there isn't really much need for the big industry in the music industry, but they're still controlling the majority of everything. So the people who make kind of the money last are the artists and the writers. And I think that that's just completely wrong. Like, as a songwriter, when your song gets played on Spotify, you make 0.0004 pence.
Oh my goodness.
You can't make a living on that. And you have to then find all these other ways to make a living. And people, like music fans, don't really know that kind of stuff's going on, and how much money has to go into kind of starting a career or just continuing a career and even putting out music. And when Spotify make the rest of that money, and then obviously that money gets split out between other different big companies, but the actual person who's creating the music is making the least amount. That's really kind of painful to see. But at the same time, you have a platform that you can share your songs to the whole world with. So it's a tough one.
Yeah, I think it's just about having more fairness as well, because you guys are the ones that are producing that music that people want. Yeah. So yeah, great. And what do you think you're obviously like thinking big, but aims and hopes are with your career?
Stadium tour.
That's good. That's what I like to see.
I mean, yeah, one day. My hope and dream for this career is just to, I have lots of high hope. I want to be doing big tours and making music, but the main like end game is just to be able to make music for a living. I have always and will always want to tell these stories and to tell to share them with people through song. And I know that I speak on behalf of the band that they just want to make music. So yeah, I guess it would just be to be able to do that every day and to be able to do that and reach bigger audiences and share with more people and kind of go and do exciting things because of that. So that's kind of what I want to do. And I mean, my goal since I've been like 8 or 9 has been to become an Opry member. So that would be, to one day play the Opry, to one day get to be an Opry member would definitely be an achievement that I think I would probably never get over. But yeah, I don't know. I just, it sounds so like, I don't know. It sounds cliche because I guess every other musician says the same thing, but we just want to be able to do this every day.
Yeah.
I just, I have these songs to tell and I want to be able to share them with people, and I want to be able to share them with massive crowds in all over the world. So that would be the goal.
I know, that's why I'm pleased. I've seen you already, but I hope to see you soon before you get too big, and then we won't be able to get to you and get to see you as much. So I think it's going to really take off.
Time you want.
And so what's next? I hear there's a new single coming out on the 12th of October. Do you want to tell us about that?
I am super excited about that. Yeah, so we recorded an EP in January because of Pledge Music, and there's 5 tracks. This is the second single, and it's called Revved Up. We have been opening our set with this song for about a year now, and it's definitely one that gets the kind of the coolest reaction. And it started because the boys in the band found out I'd never seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And so they were like, but you're a country fan and you like cowboys, you should have seen that. And it's like a 3.5-hour movie, so we watched it, obviously, and I was like, man, Clint Eastwood is cool, like, I want to be him. And so yeah, we just wrote a song about it, and yeah, it's going to be coming out. We went and filmed a music video for it, my first kind of real music video. So that's going to be coming out about a week later, and there's some exciting stuff that's going to be happening with that, but I cannot wait for people to see that, and I can't wait for people to hear it finally recorded the way that I hear it in my head every time we play it. But yeah, so that's going to be out on October 12th, and you can pre-save it now. So the link to pre-save that on Spotify is up on all my socials, and I hope that people go do that.
Yeah, we'll definitely link through to that because it's very exciting stuff. And you've got some upcoming gigs as well, haven't you, which you've given me the dates for, so I'll make sure that goes up as well, and people can come and see you. And you're playing quite a bit this autumn, aren't you? And then hopefully more early next year.
Yeah, I mean, we've just finished like all of the festivals. We did like 40 festivals this summer. So it's been a crazy period of time of traveling kind of all around the UK and yeah, we've got some more shows coming up still. I'm hoping to book some more in. I hope that we will be able to tour before the end of this year, but if not, we will definitely be on tour in January. Yeah, I'll be announcing stuff about that on my socials very soon.
Amazing. And thank you so much for being the first person to interview with me. And I'm so excited to follow your career and see where it takes you, and hopefully keep in touch and we can get some updates from you and know what's happening.
Well, thank you so much for choosing to interview me first. I really appreciate it. And thank you for championing women in country music.
No, I'm excited, and I'm more than happy to do that. So keep in touch and we'll speak soon. Thank you.
We'll speak soon. Bye.
Bye.